Welcome to She's All Business. I'm Sophia, and I'm so excited for you to meet our guest today, Christina Lee. She's going to talk to us about her life and how she founded her travel brand, chng+crw. As you can see, we are in a different location today. We are at Parsons School of Design, which is where I attend school, and Christina also is a professor here as well as the Fashion Institute of Technology. Christina, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You know, the first day of class, you came in with this amazing, multicolor button down, and you just look so put together, and I just really, every single day, you're just always on top of it with your fashion. So I'm curious what you think your least favorite fashion trends are.
My least favorite fashion trends are all trends because I'm a classic girl. But more so, it's really about the messaging of consumerism. I feel like trends push consumers to buy new things. And not always the case, right? But your mainstream consumer is going to hop on a trend and, depending on their budget is going to be the quality. And so it's less about quality over quantity. It's more about quantity over quality at that point.
How do you think your friends would describe you versus how your coworkers or students would?
There's Christina Lee, which is the professional, put together, I try to be focused all the time, probably a little guarded as well, to Tina Lee, which is more laid back, guards down, easygoing, go with the flow. It's my Gemini twins. I mean, I try to obviously still be the same person of who I am, but at the same time, it's just more reserved versus not as reserved.
So I'm curious how your family influenced you to come to the city and what you thought you wanted to do when you grew up and kind of where you left off.
My mother and my brother had the vision and managed my life at a young age. My mom put me in art school when I was in 4th grade and sewing classes because she says, you are going to be a designer and you're going to fashion school. So I think she thought as an immigrant from Korea that she could buy the American dream, which you can't buy talent. But, she thought that. It was a good idea. I did ask her this question later in life. I was like, why fashion design? She's like, I thought it was a really cool job to have. To get paid to be a designer would be exciting and fun. So I ended up applying to FIT. So my brother found FIT, got the application for me, and then I submitted my portfolio. I did not get in because it's so competitive. And then he did an early application process. So then he found FBM, which is Fashion Business Management. And then I submitted my application and I got in.
And did you enjoy it once you came to New York City?
Oh my God, I've been in fashion for over 25 years, almost 25 years at this point. And so I couldn't have thought about it any other way.
So your senior year of college, you got an internship at Baby Phat, and you ended up getting a job after that, and you were with them for 10 years. Can you tell me a little bit about the transition from being an intern to working there for your career?
So as an intern, it was basic housekeeping duties with the showroom. There was literally 3 people that was a part of the company at that time. Kimura, who was the creative director, the director of marketing, and her assistant, and then an intern. And so I was just doing basic housekeeping, checking samples in and out, cleaning the showroom, organizing the showroom, to press clippings. So back then it was physical cutting, getting the print of the magazines, the newspapers, and I would cut the press clippings and we would put in a book to gather all the media that was collected on the brand. I graduated with being her executive assistant / brand manager eventually. And so funny story, she didn't talk to me the first year or 2. So she would communicate through her personal assistants to me because she didn't trust people. And so she would delegate tasks through her assistants. Eventually, I would go to meetings with her and take notes and follow up on tasks for very, very minimal tasks. And the company was still small at the time, so it wasn't that much going on. And then from there, I think I became a senior brand manager. And so with that task, she gained a little bit more trust. She opened up. And so I would be side by side with her at every meeting. And, you know, she would talk to me more at that point. And then I would actually like help her with like trends and colors and, you know, work with the licensees and, you know, if something needed to be researched or competitive shopping, you know, do those tasks. We would start to travel more. Kumar and Russell sold the company to Kelwood, which was basically a group that owned different brands, and I became a VP of branding. So I got promoted like really high at a young age.
And this was like halfway through your 10-year span?
Yeah, halfway through my 10 years there. And so I was like, I think like 25 at the time. And so,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a whirlwind of a crazy experience, but such a rewarding experience. So yeah, I was like a VP in my mid 20s. But I will say like working for a celebrity brand, you grow a little differently, and it's really like trust at that point. Obviously you need to know what you're doing and being disciplined and doing your task, but it's really like a trust thing. So yeah, that was like my 10-year journey there at Baby Phat.
Can you tell me a little bit about the fashion shows at Baby Phat and like that experience that you had?
Fashion shows at Baby Phat was so iconic because it was not normal for like a brand that sold $50 jeans to do fashion week, right? But everything was aspirational about the brand. You know, our ads were always in like Vogue, Bazaar, you know, the best magazines. We always did fashion week just to set that tone as a brand for like to be aspirational. So we've done fashion shows at like Radio City Music Hall, which no one ever did a fashion show there. I don't even know till this day if someone has done a fashion show there. I remember that budget was like $1 million. And this is like mid 2000s.
A little bit after they got established.
Yeah, for sure. And then we were the first brand to do a live feed in Times Square for our 10-year anniversary. That was an amazing experience. Like we always did, as we started to grow as a brand, we always did fashion shows that would hold as many people. That was not what fashion shows were about back then. It was only about the exclusive, the editors, the buyers, the VIPs, that's it. So like 500, 600 cap. So we wanted to make sure we like spoke to our people. So that's why we did the live feed in Times Square. So like the everyday people could see it. At the same time, our capacity was larger so we can invite more people. We still had like the best front row. Like we were always the brand to see like who attended our show because Russell and Kumar had the great relationships with the music artists, the celebrities, the politicians, like the who's who, actors, actresses, whoever was in town. What was at our show. Our after parties was always a big thing. So I won't ever forget Prince and Keisha Cole, literally, like we had this small VIP section. You know, there are those people that are gonna be like, can I take a picture? But Prince was very like private, so I don't think whatever he wanted, whatever talent wanted, we would always abide by. So we'd always give them their like respect and space. And there's so many, at that time, there were so many people. Like I remember Alicia Keys before she came out, because Russell was still in music at that time. So he had Def Jam Records. So like artists would come in and they would sing for him. And, you know, I'd just be sitting there. But then it's like, oh my God, I was there before Alicia Keys became like huge. Her stylist at the time, Patty Wilson.
Okay, yeah.
Put her in Baby Phat. So if you see like her first few videos, like she's like dripped out in Baby Phat.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah. So I left Baby Phat and moved to LA full time because at that time Kumar was back and forth, so I was back and forth. And I was like, oh my God, I would love to live in LA. I think this would be great. It's a better work-life balance life, and then I'll just travel back to New York. And so that was the time where I had to discover who I was. So I felt like I had graduated college with 10 great years of experience, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I wanted to figure out my purpose. I wanted to figure out like what was my next career. Do I want to stay in fashion? Fast fashion was becoming like full in effect. Forever 21, H&M, those brands were like taking over. Social media started to take over. I remember like Perez Hilton like being in the office, like first starting off like mid 2000s. So like bloggers were, now like a huge thing. Do I want to be in fashion? Like what's next for me? So as I was like discovering who I was as a person, my brother had just passed away. He had always managed my life, and not realizing it until that point when he had passed away. I was like, wow. He really was like my soundboard. He was really like my manager, because he always gave me advice, because he was 7 years older than me. So he always gave me advice on like what I should do or what I shouldn't do. And I felt like, I always like made my own decision, but having like a strong opinion in your ear or someone to talk to makes a huge difference. So that was a point. I was in my early 30s, like a self-discovery process of like, what do I like? Who am I without the brand? So it's like having this identity without the brand, but at the same time, having an identity without my brother. As I was discovering myself, I went into like deep self-awareness. I got a spiritual life coach, and it was just like really about discovery, self-awareness, healing. And on that journey, it was discovering like, okay, branding. I'm really good at like understanding the individual with products. So it's like I can go into brand management. So with individuals that want to build a brand. So that's how I developed the branding team. So that was my consulting, I guess, company, if you will. And I put quotations because I had to learn through the process that with my personality, it wasn't good. Because I would give my 110 if any money was coming in or not. And so financially it didn't make sense. But with that, I did brand management. So I essentially like manage individuals with their brand and how they wanted to grow and develop their brand, building out a strategy, and then working on like brand partnerships to build out like what their goals were. And so eventually I was like managing like athletes, influencers, and really focusing on how they wanted to build their individual brands. And then like I ended up like focusing more on like brand partnerships after like strategy was set and done. And so I did that for a while, but then I moved back to New York. And once I moved back after maybe year one, that's when I realized like, this is not for me.
When you came back to New York, did you start chng+crw?
So I always had the concept of chng+crw since 2012, 13. And I left Baby Phat in 2010. I would always like think about the brand, and then I would consult because I had to make money. And then every time it wasn't like I would like get through a client or, going through two different clients, I would always go back to the brand every year because I just wasn't happy. But then it's like I had to make money. So every year I would go back to the brand. But I wasn't fully focused. And it wasn't until I moved back to New York, the pandemic hit. That's what helped me and gave me the, I guess, if you will, like luxury to be able to like work on the brand. So chng+crw is a travel products and experience brand. Every product has a message behind it, and everything's made in New York. So when I say purpose-based, it's like consciously made, how it's made, like the fabrications, being made in New York, like locally made, locally sourced, lowering my carbon footprint. Also with purpose-based is like each product I develop, I have a message behind it. So like one of my products I call is the lavender restorative mask. And my message behind that product is self-development. And so the product has like a lavender insert that's locally sourced from a lavender farm in Long Island. And with that, the product end use is for like meditation, relaxation, and sleep. And so with this product, I create like experiences around it. So with that product, I have wellness experiences. So like one of my wellness experiences, I partner with a spa in Chelsea called Naturopathica Spa. And so the experience is guided meditation, journaling, tea affirmation, visions, and a spa experience, like a facial or massage. So it's like an inner and outer wellness experience. So essentially it's like showing the user how to utilize the product, but at the same time representing a message. During the pandemic, I went through 15 sample makers. I thought, oh, the lavender restorative mask is such a small product. It's like, it has a bag. It's like, you know, it's similar to an eye mask, but there's like an insert inside of it. It's a small product. It's not going to be, you know, that difficult to make. And this goes back to my experience at Baby Phat. Like, I wasn't in the rooms with the sample makers, you know, working on the product. I was overseeing the product process, right? I was overseeing the approval process. So now I'm in it. And the curvature of the mask is so detailed that I'm a perfectionist. So if it's like off, and so not one sample maker would make it to my quality. So it took me like 15 sample makers to find my one, like, manufacturer, which is in the garment district on 39th Street.
So are all the goods from chng+crw things that you've designed or thought out and sent?
Thought I design it, and then I have like sewers. I have my vision. I know what I want. I do like competitive shopping. I source out the packaging. I design the packaging as well. So I will almost like put the samples together. I'll work with a sample maker if it's like cut and sew, but like with the candle like maker, I'm putting it together and then giving it to them for them to like execute it properly and, you know, put their kind of knowledge to the product that needs to be made. There is that purpose, right? And that purpose means so many things on how it's being developed, as I mentioned, but also I give back. It also has meaning to it, but it also has experiences around it.
Well, I think it's really important to remember like the purpose of everything and like what is driving this brand, but also your intentions that you've had since like 2012.
But not everyone cares about conscious products.
That's true.
So it's also education. Because I'm so small and I don't have funding, I don't have a following, so it's like kind of minimizing the messaging and allowing the customer to like unfold what the brand is about.
What is one of your favorite experiences with chng+crw?
The whole process is a great experience. It's challenging because I'm learning a lot. I think going from having an established following or established funding to not having that at all has been very challenging, but also like a huge learning curve for me. So there's a lot of moments where I'm like, oh, do I keep doing this? But then it's like, I have to keep pushing myself through. So I think just the whole process has been great. I think what's been really rewarding is when I do my experiences and people saying, oh my God, this was so great. I had such a bad day. You know, like let's say my wellness experience. They'd be like, I needed this. But that like fills me up. Like I'm a people person. So when I can fill someone's day up, like, oh my God, I needed this, or, you know, I need to be more consistent on my wellness. Like, I love that. Like that really like makes me so happy.
Do you have a team?
You know what? I have like a part-time team.
Okay.
I don't have a full-time team. So that I think is a challenge in itself because it's like ever changing.
Well, and it's also, the brand is your baby too.
Oh my God, literally and figuratively.
But I just feel like it's kind of difficult sometimes to maybe take yourself out of it. Of like, I mean, you're in it all the time. This is your baby. This is like your everyday ride or die thing. And taking yourself out of it and like even experiencing other experiences that you're not putting on is like a brand new eye opener that might be able to, you know, help you see what's working and not working. What advice would you give to young women who want to start their own business?
Getting that experience. It doesn't hurt. Even if it's like multiple internships, right? Just to understand like the structure, how like a developed company operates. Also like learning from someone else's mistakes. People say that all the time. Learning things that you don't want. You know, I learned things that I didn't want in my company, but I also learned things that I needed to learn, right?
So as a woman trying to get into some sort of business field, why would you recommend marketing and branding?
Marketing and branding is the core of a brand. And as I was mentioning with like Baby Phat, Kimora and Russell was the DNA of the brand. It was who they authentically were. So before YouTubers and influencers being authentic and connecting with their audience, like that is where I learned branding and Baby Phat, being authentic to who you are. Because Kimora was authentically who she was, just living her life. Like, you know, her house, the cars, her dining room table with her kids laying on the table with Versace dining utensils and plates, right?
Oh, that life.
It was her authentic life, and it was on our advertisements, and those were our ad campaigns. Her being a model at 13 and being Karl Lagerfeld's muse. So taking like the aesthetic of like high fashion, ready to wear fashion to a brand that sells $50 jeans. So branding and marketing is obviously very important because it's, you know, again, it's the core of what differentiates yourself from others and really telling your story. How do you tell a story if you don't know what your brand is, right? You living who you are authentically only connects you with your brand to be able to sell your product, right?
Yeah.
It's easier to sell a product from somebody that is authentically connected versus someone that's disconnected. And now 10, 15 years later, it's like, be authentic to who you are, right? That's how you connect with your audience, and that's branding.
On all of my episodes, I really want this podcast to not just be like an outlet for young women to listen to and get advice from, but also to have something that is like a call to action where they can really take what you say and apply it in real life scenarios. So I would love to ask if there's any internship, shadowing, work opportunities that you're able to share or offer to listeners.
I mean, I call it a mentorship, where it's like a mentorship internship for chng+crw, because I really believe in like mentoring and giving back at the same time in exchange for like helping with the brand. So there's that opportunity for sure. It's hello@chng+crw, so it's hello@chng+crw.com. But I would always suggest like students and just people I meet going on LinkedIn. There's fashion recruiters, websites, and companies that's been around for like decades. So like your 24/7, Fourth Floor, JBC Style, and they specialize in fashion jobs. And when you have a recruiter on your side, it's like, you know, having an agent or a manager, right? So they're gonna help you get that job.
All right. Well, Christina, thank you so much for giving me your time and just supporting me. And I'm really, really grateful to hear your story and to share it with the listeners.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next week.